Friday is still Naija People in Business on your number one family radio, 92.3 Inspiration FM. 16 minutes gone past the hour of 11. Yes, if you were here when we tuned in, when we kicked off a couple of minutes after 11, you know that, yes, we're talking agro business, the future of agro business, and a little more of that, actually more than a little, because what I have before me here just, blows my mind. Okay, so without further ado, we did say yes, we're expecting our guest who's going to walk in a couple of minutes, and I was right to stay safe with minutes and not seconds. He is Mr. Lanre Sam-Akinkumi. He's the co-founder and chief executive of the firm Golden Seed Fats and Oils. Am I correct?
You're very correct.
You're very welcome to the studio. Okay, and yes, his firm most recently invested in a 105,000 ton capacity palm nut plant in the south region.
Actually, 155,000.
155,000.
Yes.
Okay, 155,000 ton capacity palm nut cracker plant in the south region. So I'll tell you the truth. Once I my eyes, caught this. The first thing that comes to my mind is like, fine palm oil, finally. Fine palm oil, because it's a conversation that we've had over time, on the tea break, and people have actually lamented and have often talked about how you don't actually really get palm oil, fine palm oil to buy. And then when we went to the polls and took phone calls and messages and all of that, and other people say they had to travel all the way. And I think that one of the reasons, as I likely came to find that was because, was the non-availability of the cracker equipment in the country.
Yeah.
And here you are. This is what you've chosen to go into.
Yeah, that's part of the value chain we're focused on now.
Okay, so tell us why you decided to go, distribute.
About 3 years ago, we got into the agro business, and we were focused, and we decided we would focus on the palm oil value chain. We've been in the business for about 3 years where we've been very silent. We've been in the upstream part of the business, which is called Ceres Oil. Ceres Oil owns one of the largest palm plantations, private-owned palm plantations in Nigeria. We've got a hectarage that accumulates almost 1,000 in Agro State. So we've been in the business of crude palm oil for the past few years. But as you would have it, when you grow in business and you're going bigger, there's a way you want to expand, and it might be vertical, it might be horizontal, and sometimes it means moving from the particular part of the sector where you are to another part of the value chain. So we found that the part of the value chain, in the palm oil value chain, that lacks infrastructure the most is the palm nut cracking segment of the business. Because post that stage, there's a lot of value that can be gotten from the FFB, which is the fresh fruit bunch. So the average farmer who does not have the hundreds of millions cannot maximize the value from palm nut, because the cracking equipment is expensive. It's not something you can do on a small scale. We could have started doing it gradually, but it was just going to be a futile effort. It's something that you will get into and you get stuck halfway. So what we decided to do, we decided to bring in a team together, and we decided to look at how we can come into this place and work with all the farmers who have had this problem. So these farmers, for time memorial, that palm nut is being sold as scrap. There was no value, because anyone who was going to take it from you, who is a mid-tier player in the business today, would beat down this own raw material cost at the detriment of the farmer. So when we realized what our daily input was going to be, doing a business that's going to receive maybe over 15 to 20 trucks of palm nuts every day, we just realized that, this is not something we could do internally anymore, or use our business development departments to do anymore. So we went out and reached out to the associations who hold all the palm oil farmers in Nigeria, which is the National Palm Produce Association and the All Palm Growers Association of Nigeria. So we work with them segments in the different states which are approximate to, very close to us. Because in the same Edo state, sometimes it's faster to get some things from Delta, Agbo, Abraka, Sapele, Wari, and in Ondo, Ore, Okitipupa, Ayeson, Araromi, it's easier for you to bring it down from places in like Urumi, Auchi to my place. So we decided to work with different associations.
Place is where again?
Which is in Obage Utesi in Edo State.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the industrial area in Edo State, which is being marked to be the main industrial cluster in the state. So we went there, but the whole area is not ready yet. There's not yet power infrastructure there. We've had to bring our own power in from about almost 2 kilometers away. Yeah, so we're working with Sioma Power Plants. It's a new power plant, 50 megawatt power plant in the state. We're bringing our own direct power so we can relieve some power off the community because our engines are so strong. If we put them on, the power rating in the community will probably be affected as well. So we decided that we were going to invest in the power infrastructure. We are also planning to build the first palm kernel shell power factory in Africa.
Wow.
In the world, there are only about 3 of them. It's in Japan. There's one in Japan now. One is under construction as well in Asia. But Japan doesn't produce palm oil, so they had to bring the palm kernel shells from Indonesia and Malaysia, which is close to them. So we've looked at this sector and we've looked at where do the opportunities lie. The opportunity also lies, there's some opportunity that lies in refining and fractionation. So palm oil is perhaps the most important oil in the world. If you walk into any supermarket, 60% of the products you see on the shelf contain palm oil. It's the reason your lipstick sticks together and doesn't melt. It's the reason chocolate does not melt when it's on the shelf.
Chocolate, palm oil?
Yeah.
Really?
The creamer in your Nescafe is palm kernel.
Right.
There's no milk in it, it's called milk flavor. You just put milk flavor in it.
Wow.
So it's in everything, but what they try to do is that it hides under different chemical names. It's in toothpaste, it's in paints, it's the reason why you have gloss paint on the walls, it's everywhere. So anytime you see anything glossy, think of palm oil because the next alternative oil to it is expensive. So you're talking about rapeseed oil, sunflower oil, you're talking about canola and all that. Number one, you need to also check that where does Nigeria have a comparative advantage to produce? I've done soybean before, I know the profitability that's there, I know what it is, and I'm going to tell you for Wahada. There's some businesses that when the government is also investing in and putting out policies for, one of the things that should be considered is who is this policy targeted as? When you look at palm oil can't be done. Planting a palm plantation is very expensive. It's like going into the upstream part of oil and gas. It's expensive and it requires patient capital. So you're going to put things on the ground, you're going to have to wait for about, from your nursery stage, maybe 1.5 years before maturity, and you start getting first oil. You need for maybe another 2.5 to 2.8 years. When you put 4 years together, you keep spending every month until you get to 48 months of deep spending for you to realize first oil. You need patient capital, you need development finance, you need intervention funds for that stage of the business. People like us have the capital and the resources to go into the midstream part of the business. So what I really like, what the investors would like to see from me when I'm pitching is that what area of the business are you going into? Are you going into the midstream business, which is the processing and refining? Are you going into the downstream part of the business, which is making the products that will go on the shelf, or soaps as well? Or are you going into the upstream part of the business? The easiest part that the government can do to grow the sector is the upstream part. The commercial banks don't have the kind of patience that you wait for 4 years. Who's going to give you that moratorium that long? At what rate as well? Also, access to land also needs to be considered as well.
Okay, sorry.
Sir, at this point, I just want to tell Larry, I just have to let you know that you've officially ended the show. Yeah, because
nothing else to talk about.
I'm
right?
telling you, you talked about how your business started, you talked about challenges, you talked about what the government could do. What more is there to ask? The only thing that we can do, however, is to try, to play the role of the listener out there and, ask certain questions. Okay, but I'll go after it.
I won't talk anymore, just questions.
Oh, please go on. But this question, just a quick education for us and our listeners.
Okay.
You've mentioned upstream, you've mentioned midstream, you've mentioned downstream.
Yes.
Can you just take a few seconds to explain each one?
Okay. So the upstream part of the palm oil value chain has to do with some certain things like water management. You're talking about nursery development. You're talking about the ultimate plantation development. So that's that upstream. That's the part that brings the produce out in the first place. It's the most important part. But there are critical issues that people have not understood about the majority of the value chains in Nigeria, like plantation business. When they say Nigeria was once the largest palm plantation country in the world, I always like to ask that oil palm, was it planted actually? when they did that? Or was it because of the belts that palm oil that God gave the earth runs through West Africa? So there was no deliberate action to actually develop this thing in the first place. It has happened over time, and different governments have invested at different capacities. But when you look at when countries like Malaysia and Indonesia want to treat the upstream business, they take the land, they plant it, then they call people who have resources. They've done the upstream part. They lease it to you for 50 years or 40 years. You go and bring the infrastructure in. You come and build the storage terminal. Come and build the FFB processing center. Come and build the palm nut cracker. Come and build it. So it's usually a consortium, sometimes except private companies. And the private companies who are in Malaysia are practically the biggest food industries in the world. So when you look at the midstream segment, the upstream cannot work without the midstream. For instance now, if you have a very big plantation and you don't have good milling infrastructure, the quality of your oil will not be optimum. There are two types of oil. There is the TPO and there's the SPO. There's technical palm oil and there's special palm oil. Technical palm oil is the palm oil you say people are looking for that they want to eat. That's the one that goes into your afang, those kind of things. That palm oil doesn't need to be refined. It can't even be refined because of there's something they call the FFA content. So refining is just simple. It's just RBDO. Refining, bleaching, deodorizing the oil.
Right.
So the oil has so much fat in it that it can only be used for soap making.
Right.
Because that's what the soap makers even want. They want the fatty acids to be high so you can have more oil on your body. So they can ladder on.
Yeah. It's moisturizing.
Yeah, moisturizing as well, you understand. So that's what they use for. The special palm oil is what the refiners, those who make the vegetable oil using our house, the margarines, that's what they want. They want the oil that when it goes into the system, it does not require so much steam to change it. You need steam of maybe around 600, 700 degrees to get oil proper from one form to the other. If you use technical palm oil in this kind of situation, you will blow up the whole place. It's just that's the layman term to what it is like. So it's when you see people who say there's a lot of palm oil in Nigeria, people have those things you say, those are not meals. Those are meals for our edible consumption. You cannot derive FX value from such products. If you export it, it's going to go to an African store in maybe Woolwich, Plumstead, or maybe in Dubai. It's just going to go to the African market. And the women there will just be using it to cook for their husband. That's the max they can ever achieve for you. But when countries like Malaysia and Indonesia are telling you that it costs us $300 to produce palm oil and we gain revenue of about $600, $700, then it takes you back to the drawing board and you know there's something that is fundamentally wrong. It's not a menial business. It's actually a big industry that needs a lot of attention and focus. And there's no one approach to it. The government has brought out a lot of initiatives now, including the CBN All Palm program. But that's not the end of the road. Thanks to Inspiration FM for having me today. I'm sure we explored a lot of ideas and issues in the sector. And we look forward to doing this more collaboratively, more across to the end of the year, where we can expose the issues, the challenges, and how we think this sector can grow. And I think it's important that the media as well comes in with business and the private sector so they can give the proper narrative of what's going on in the sector. And we can also get to our targets easier when we all come together and the whole world knows what the issues are, the challenges are, and what we'll expect to be the solutions to these things. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate your time. And thank you to all the people who listened as well. I hope you do this more often. Thank you very much.
The land is green, all that's left is you and me. I wanna be so happy, so I wanna be so happy, so coconut chocolate, yeah, na chocolate, coconut chocolate, yeah, na chocolate. Oh, pibe, the world, el pichiche music is back.